Hi, I'm Michael Daly, and here's my final project for the video games unit. But before I get into it, I'm gonna eat this Scotch Bonnet hot pepper. Real quick before I eat it, I'm gonna summarize all the past assignments, and then I'm going to briefly answer the questions. So without further ado, I swallow it. Basically, you have to look at Papers, Please. It's a puzzle video game puzzle video game. It has the player take the role of a border crossing immigration officer in the fictional dystopian Eastern Bloc-like country of Arstotzka, which has been and continues to be at political hostilities. As the immigration officer, the player must review each immigrant and returning citizens' passports and other supporting paperwork against a list of ever-increasing rules from membered tools and guides. That's just the Wikipedia article. Basically, you have to look at people's papers and make sure everyone's coming through legally. It says that it's a puzzle game. I think it's more of a simulation game. That's basically assignment 1. The main challenge is staying focused on what you're doing. There's no room for mistakes in Papers, Please, but that doesn't mean it's unforgiving. Though it's easy to mess up, it gives you unlimited chances to repeat levels from where you failed or from where you think you could do better. Assignment 2. How do you, the player, respond to the challenge? I felt I was surprisingly very good at the game. I quickly got the hang of it and rarely made mistakes. I responded to the game by increasingly focusing because it gradually gets harder, so I was forced to maintain a mindful eye. Woo! Assignment 3. How does your response reveal your own identity? And what does it reveal? There are a lot of choices that can be made throughout the playthrough of Papers, Please. Heck, there's 20 different endings. Papers, Please does a great job of making you feel like you're in the game, despite the graphics. The gameplay and realism both imply the immersion of the game. With all this being said, I would make immoral decisions for the sake of my job to put money on the table for my family. However, I might do favors for strangers, given it doesn't compromise my family, and I solely because I want to help people in need. According to the game, my response reveals I'm an empathetic person, but I still put my family first. Assignment 4. How does the game respond to your actions? Like I said, there's 20 endings. I believe all the endings are responses to your actions. You can have one bad playthrough for a day and then immediately get a bad ending. The game branches off on many paths based on your choices and also on your mistakes. There are many different specific responses the game gives you, but all of them are classified as either positive or negative. You win or you lose. Assignment 5. How does replaying the game affect your interpretation? Replaying levels in Papers, Please is so common, there's no huge effect on interpretations. The whole point of Papers, Please is to play the game, then go back and play it differently. That's why there's so many endings. There's 20 endings of Papers, Please. Sometimes playing days after you've lost can be frustrating due to the tediousness of doing the same thing twice. But it can also be fun. Going back to easier levels in Papers, Please, when you experienced good at the game, is the most satisfying thing to do. Bottom line, replaying Papers, Please only increases the positivity of my interpretations. Assignment 6. What universal themes, archetypes, are revealed through the game's story? What can we learn about humanity in general from the game? And how does the game reveal these ideas? A specific theme can be the theme of family. You need to take care of your family in order to succeed at the game. You lose when your family members die. I believe this emphasizes the importance of family. This detail is very accurate to the type of society that is demonstrated in the game. It explains that in order to continue working, you must have a strong family and social family life. The only thing I feel is unrealistic is the fact that you get citations from approving or denying someone wrongfully. In real life, you wouldn't get a citation because you're the only one checking the papers. This kind of implies that there's a computer or something that checks your work. Of course, I realize this mechanic was added to make the game more functionally as a game. Assignment 7, the last one. How do video game communities influence your experience of the game's story? The endings in Papers, Please aren't easily spoilable. In Papers, Please community, if you want to find spoilers, you have to look for them. These spoilers come in the form of advice on how to complete levels and unlocking endings. It is very hard to stumble on spoilers, and even then, they will usually be censored out by the poster as spoilers. I believe the communities enriches the game's story because the more you talk about it with someone, the more you love it. Now the questions. What determines substantial literary values, and how do various forms of media accomplish this? I believe realism is a very determining factor. How else can you feel relatable and immersed in something without it feeling realistic? Media nowadays is very good at making sure things make sense. Papers, Please is very good at making sure you connect to the game and feel like you're in the story. There's a million ways to tell a story, but only a couple will make you feel like you're in the story. How do video games provide insight into characters and into the human experience? Socialization is a huge part in the human experience. Video games do a great job of simulating talking to people solely because the human mind is so imaginative. The graphics in Papers, Please aren't incredible. It's essentially pixel art, but this doesn't stop the player from feeling like they're actually talking to someone and holding a conversation. Making video games use its characters to tell the story of the game. NPCs can provide insight about what happened before you arrived or why you needed to save the world. In order to capture the human experience, you need to have a good social aspect in your game. Last one. How do video games compare to great works of literature in the following ways? Identify what the characters invite him to judge them and quarrel with them, and you experience the joys and sufferings to the reader's own. How do video games succeed and fail in these areas? Why? Literature usually tells a story. Video games do the same thing, except you move the story along, and in some games, you can control it. Much like in literature, video game characters have personalities. Just look at Sonic the Hedgehog in its earlier games. If you remain idle for too long, Sonic will become impatient and jump off the stage. This is very helpful in video games because you don't always get the insight of characters' personalities like you do in literature. It's also very important to connect to the characters. Literature does a great job of making you feel like you're in the story, but not truly feel what the character is feeling. Video games, on the other hand, can make you experience dying. Just look at an arcade game, Dragon's Lair. There's dozens of different ways to die, and you just sit there and watch it. Some things can't be expressed in words on paper. Some things can only be expressed in simulation. Can I have the milk, please? And that is the end of my presentation and my final video game unit thing. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Michael Daly.